Ladies and gents, boys and girls, they responded, and some people are really not happy with the response. Some people are, some people aren't. Some people are massively overreacting. Some people are quite justly reacting. We're going to break it all down. Stats are changing. The way you play SuperCard is changing for the better and for worse. Let's go. Let's get started here and just say, look, I'm not going to ask you to like the video. Do it if you want to. This is more of a discussion point than information thing for you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing. Turn notifications on, all that random stuff that's out of the way. Comments, though, I want to know your thoughts on everything that you see in this video or you've already seen on social media. So, the Elemental Pro stats have been a big point of discussion. There have been a lot of people complaining. Like every single tier, it was being held aloft, strapped balloons to it, sent up into the sky, just waiting to see what it does next. And then you saw the pro stats and suddenly all the balloons burst and it came to the ground. What should have been a pretty interesting and fun new tier became a massive discussion point because SuperCard have come out with a statement saying it ain't changing because they've been basically planning to do this all along. And that hasn't pleased people. So let's talk about why it's not pleasing people first. People, rightly, are not happy it's just been dropped on them. More on what they said about that in a second. The next thing people are not happy about is the fact that, in their opinion, this has worked for the last 6 years, so why change it now? And to be perfectly honest with you, I can agree with that. When you're like 2/3 into a season, why wouldn't you change it at the very beginning of a season? I don't know. Some people have made some very good points though, and some people are actually happy about this because the time, the effort, and the money they put in to some of these cards, and this isn't all beneficial just for pay to win people, by the way, people. So anyone who's sitting there going, oh, it's all pay to win, etc. It's actually not. If you are a regular grinder in the game and you are getting yourself these special cards or you're getting yourself event cards, you are gonna love this because that's what they're targeting. So I don't know how it's come to this point, but effectively SuperCard have managed to downgrade the necessity for packs at the beginning of a tier, which is odd. You think they want money. But let's get into nitty gritty about what they actually said and break down the statement and what it means for you and me. And showing you a pretty special pack later as well. So a tweet came out last night. And there was no words, just a picture with words on it. There was words, but on a picture, you know what I mean. And it said this. With the release of recent tiers, we've made changes to promote healthier stat growth. Simply put, we don't want to actually hit the gabillions by this fall, while at the same time we do want to better define windows of power for top tier cards. Many of our traditional paradigms are still intact with Elemental, but we also built in some more competitive aspects in WrestleMania 36 cards that you're seeing now. As Elemental matures, you'll see more and more powerful Elemental cards released. Thanks for the feedback, keep it coming. Now, it was a little bit of a mouthful, gonna be honest. We are gonna cover off in more detail exactly what that means, and I've got a nice little graph stroke example of how that works and what it means for the future of the game. You know, there is a lot of things that by doing this, SuperCard have effectively changed the way that the game works and what cards benefit what people. I want to refer to a couple of replies I gave them because there's some things on there I wanted to get across to them in terms of ideas and how to balance free to play and pay to win, if you want to call it that, or money, no money. My first point of call was to thank them for finally communicating with its fan base. Positives, in my opinion, are that the investment of time or money or whatever you want to call it in event cards and special cards is now worth more. More incentive to build your deck up and go for those cards. The negative is because of the drop rate of the top tiers that's being so low, those who aren't being able to get event cards, fortify cards, are actually being penalized as a result. So I made some suggestions. Number one was increasing the stat boost on fortifying, then reducing resets required for a base tier pull, increasing the drop rate on top base cards, in Team Battleground and packs. And that would, in my opinion, keep the balance. But to increase the stat boost on fortifying, what I mean by that is that when you fortify cards, every time you fortify upwards, the bonus you get for that is higher than it would be normally. For reducing resets, I personally feel that the healthiest the game has ever been was back in Season 4 with 120 resets per pull. Especially with fortifying, I don't think Cat Daddy, I don't see the numbers, I don't see the figures, so I can't tell you. I don't think they quite get, if they're watching this is a message directly to you guys at Cat Daddy, I don't think you quite get that to be able to get the perfect balance with fortifying, you need to change some of the things you haven't changed since the end of Season 4. There's things you're trying to make work in Season 6 that only work for like a very small percentage of people. Whereas if you change a few, just a tiny little dials, you might end up with better results. And not just better results, more people playing the game, more people happier with changes like this happening. The drop rate is very simple. If you're going to start introducing Fortify 4 and 5, which is what is, it's been previously leaked, then I'm sorry, you need to make sure that there's a good chance of getting them in packs, and Team Battleground comes with guaranteed cards now, and I'm talking about females too. This way Team Battleground becomes an essential game mode, and please reduce the amount of time that is needed for King of the Rings. Something I've given lots of feedback in the past about. Now oddly, this big change will actually affect top 8s because as you build your deck up and you get these special cards and etc., because the stats are so, the difference is so vast, and now it's starting to come together because you heard the difference between Royal Rumble and then WrestleMania, etc. That difference in stat points is going to start to close in, which means things like LMS and Clash of Champions, maybe some other game modes, will become easier to get the deck balance as such. It won't seem like it right now, but in the future you might not have to worry about having an underpowered or an unbalanced deck anymore. It might just be a thing of the past. But I did say top 8 deck ratings needs to be abolished. The whole thing, I feel, is just a massive push towards pay to win, and that just needs to stop. On the last thing, and they say we don't want the stats going to the gajillions. Now, you can read that statement how you want to, whether that's confirmation they're going to be doing something about it. But people have been asking for a stat crunch or a reset on the game as far back as Season 4. Now people who were originally saying no reset are now saying, in fact a lot of people, from what I've seen feedback wise, are now saying we need a reset or a change in stats and a removal of certain cards in the game. And I've been saying this since Season 4. There's too many tiers in the game, there's too many numbers in the game, we've got to cut it down. And they still don't listen. And this is one of the things I have the biggest problems with the way Cat Daddy actually run this game. 3 really big things that people have asked for. First is heroic. Gotta be changes with heroic. The second is top 8 tier balances, that kind of stuff. There's been no changes. They said at the beginning of this game that they were going to kind of change that and abolish that and move to a different kind of deck rating system. They could argue the third one is card limit, but I would actually take the card limit out because that's a different conversation entirely. The third thing has been stats, changes to the game, ways to make it fresh again. Those 3 or 4 things they really haven't listened to, or if they have, they aren't doing anything about it. But on screen for you is a guide, and this guide gives you the list from weakest to toughest. Now, I don't know the numbers for the top level fusion special event cards. They made it kind of that they believe that as the tier goes on, there'll be more and more powerful cards being introduced. I remember back in Season 1 where you always had the fusions at the end of the tier, and they would be so overpowered, it would be ridiculous. But you've got the list in front of you. It goes from the Mania tier all the way down to what we believe the half heroic and heroic stats are going to look like. I don't know how this is going to work in the long run. It's almost as if they're now starting to rely on the numbers than the tiers itself. And in my personal opinion, they can only really and truly do that when they start cutting back the numbers a bit more. And without people and the community making guides, it's going to become really confusing. People are going to wonder why their top level Elemental tier pro is getting beaten by WrestleMania 36 cards, because that's the norm. They're changing the norm. One thing I will contest is they've been saying they've been doing this since the beginning of season 6 and moving towards this. I would argue, I don't think so. I think that this has been in motion since Royal Rumble tier going through to now, because there was... This is the kind of thing you do at the beginning of a new game, not halfway, 2/3 away through a season. I mean, we're 7 months in and we're making changes like this. 8 months in, we're making changes like this. It's pretty big, and with no warning either. They could say as much as they want to that WrestleMania 36 was where it kind of started, or Royal Rumble or Vanguard was where it started. The fact of the matter is they've not communicated that properly and just kind of dropped it on the player base very suddenly. And I don't necessarily agree that that was the right way to go. But at least it explains why certain cards in WrestleMania tier were so overpowered, like uncomfortably overpowered. But at this point, I don't know whether it's time just to accept it and move on, or do, as a player base, you fight back and try to make this change when this apparently has been something that's been in the motions of changing for 3 or 4 tiers. But I do hope that some of the things I've mentioned, A, make sense, and B, make sense to the guys and girls at Cat Daddy's 2K. Because whilst I agree it's a great thing for people to invest money and time into event cards, heroic event cards, etc., and these special cards, which it's a free-to-play mobile game at the end of the day, a change like this is not going to be popular, especially when there is so much else that could have been fixed first instead of changing things. They've done a lot of changing and bringing new things in, not a lot of fixing. So I'd like to know in the comment section what you think about all this. I hope the guide is helpful to you, and we're going to segue out to get a pretty special One More Chance pack. And you know what? This is probably the first time I've ever really used a pack shuffle, and it came in real handy for what you're about to see. So, segue. Oh god, Berserker on the front of this one. Surely it's going to be an elemental, right?
No.
Oh yes, it's an elemental. Oh my god.
Oh wait, what the hell?
I was like, hey, it's going to be an elemental in this one. Bang, elemental.
You could have just asked me to be negative, because last time it worked.
If I got Berserker, that would be a little bit mental.
Oh wow. I'm thinking no one good, because sure look.
Oh, thanks. Okay, let's go. What is it? What is it? Elemental. Oh, it's an Eric. Or I can shuffle for 1,000.
Oh no.
No.
Oh,
no.
Should I should do it.
Would it does it just shuffle the elemental card for another elemental?
Yes.
Imagine he shuffles it and he gets it like a SummerSlam 19.
Oh, this is... Right.
Do it for the content.
1,000 for shuffle. Seth Rollins.
Oh.
Or do I shuffle again?
Paddy is alive.
Do I keep set rolls?
Colby, put that in.
Do it.
Or do I shuffle set rolls?
What is it? A pro? No.
It's a single.
Need it, then. You don't need it then.
But it is the Monday Night Messiah.
Skip it.
Do it, no balls. Do it.
Yes,
Science.
SummerSlam 19.
Oh, Shorty G! No!
Oh no!
Right, one more shuffle. One more shuffle. Oh, pray for me, guys. Pray for me.
Oh no.
Any
Fred, what am I
buttons
going to
on
see
the
here?
Oh, it's a pro! Andrade! Woo! Yeah! 3,000 credits later.
Wait, did you open up one to shovel the
I've
rest?
just ruined something there.
Woo! Shuffles worked! I shuffled and it worked. I've never shuffled in the packs before because shuffling is a rip-off, but I just got ripped off and I got a pro. Woo!
Maybe we should have stopped at Seth.
Nope, it's fine. We got Andrade. It's okay. It's okay. The Berserker is done finally. I don't know how many shards I've done. I've done way too many because my team is lazy. Totally not lazy like I was 5 weeks ago when I got... no, actually, the last 3 Team Road to Glories, I think I got 1 point.
Wow, slacker.
Big slacker. Who cares? I don't know. Was Berserker to replace Brock Lesnar? I don't know. Either way, he's got a really cool... Listen, I'm not going to pretend. I don't know who this guy is. I genuinely... I heard of the name,
very long
the
time
Berserker.
ago.
I know the face. I've never seen one of his matches. I don't know who he is.
Am I spelled it right? Because I keep getting a metal band from Australia.
Maybe he's part of it. I got myself an extra pro. I mean, everything's good in the world. I've got myself 3 pros now.
I'm going to say I'm not familiar with the Berserker. He looks like he could be, somebody that I may know, but no.
But literally, he could be in the Viking Raiders. Slightly flabbier version of Viking Raiders. Less athletically...
It's like the Viking Raiders' older dad who's a chef.
He's like the AEW version of the Viking Raiders.
He just wants to be cool, guys.
It's like Private Party is like the AEW version of the Street Profits.
No, I think what you're really saying is that he's like the Goldberg. Sorry, he's like the Gilberg of the Viking Raiders.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
He's
My
the
favorite.
WWE parody of his WWE self. Oh, God.